Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to start this very session of our 18th International Conference for the World Association for Sustainable Development and the 8th International Conference for our International Diaspora Initiative. I am very pleased and very excited because this is the first time we have run this conference via video conferencing. I'm also pleased, I'm very excited because I can see that from the list or from the people I can start seeing now. Some are familiar faces, some are faces which I'm going to learn to know them in the next 2 to 3 days. I'm very also excited because despite all the difficulties we have all been going through in the last 6 or 7 or 8 months now, we have managed to put this conference together. Has not been easy. It was very, very difficult. Now, to give you a very brief background about the World Association for Sustainable Development, we are a global forum bringing academics, policymakers, practitioners, business leaders, and government leaders from across the world, trying to achieve sustainable development by discussing all these global challenges from local perspectives. So what I mean by that, sustainable development to be achieved, there are 2 issues I always remind people we have to consider them. Number 1, we should consider these issues from a global perspective. And number 2, we have to consider them from a local perspective. What does that mean? Like the coronavirus is a very good example. Globally, we all now been locked down into our bedrooms or in our houses. I'm talking to you from my house in London. You are watching, you're going to be following, you're going to be speaking. There's lots of countries, people from different countries of the world, not just the UK, US, Nigeria. Yes, the one I remember quickly, Jordan, we have people from there. We have people from Sudan, from New Zealand, we have from India, we have from UAE, we have from so large, in Malaysia, we have people from different, St. Lucia. Dr. Gail Rigobert is going to join us tomorrow, Wednesday, sorry. So we all now been locked down into our houses because of the coronavirus. The coronavirus, or the COVID-19, as many people use it, it's a global phenomena, and this global phenomena is something remind us all that we are in this planet. We are all together. We are fighting together to survive together. And I think most importantly, we're going to be discussing in this conference is despite all this derailing from our main task of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 agenda, 7 months is gone. We're expecting another 6 to 7 months to come. We still don't know what is going to happen in the next 6 to 7 months, but we have to come back to the main road we started many years ago, aiming to achieve a sustainable, or to make our future sustainable, to make our future prosperous for all our youngest generations. This is what we have been doing from 1987. From that time, we have all agreed we need to work together very closely to ensure our future generations can actually enjoy at least what we are enjoying now. This is from 1987. Now we're in 2020. We are being faced with something which has taken us out of the mainstream of our road. We have all been working very hard to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 agreed goals by the United Nations and all the nations. We all have been working very hard to try to achieve these goals, and we suddenly have this virus from back in 2019 in December, and we have then been locked down, and we are here now. We still been locked down. We're running this conference from here. Now, this is a history of the West. This is a history of humankind. This is a history of sustainable development, and this is a history of the Sustainable Development Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals. There have been a long journey we all been through, and I would really encourage you, because of the time, to visit our website, which is west.org.uk, to try to see all the work we have been doing from 1999. So we have been doing lots of work about sustainable development when we started back in 1999. Our first aim at that time is to try to bring to the whole world the multidisciplinary approach to solve the global problems. We have argued for many years, now more than 20 years, that we cannot solve these problems without all working together. And by all, I mentioned all from the whole all over the world, but all I mean political science, engineers, law, policymakers, scientists, people from agriculture background, from engineering background. We all have to work together because the problems we are trying to address here are multidisciplinary. And if you look to the coronavirus or to the COVID-19, it is not just a health issue. There is a critical part in getting us back on track is the social science. A critical path for us to reach what we want, we need to go back to basic, to the family, washing our hands, social distancing, try to use our mind, common sense. Most of the time you can see politicians talk about common sense. So you can see it's not an issue of those our colleague at Oxford or at UCL or Imperial trying to find a cure or a vaccine for this pandemic, but it's all of us. I was just reading this morning that I think from in a week time in the UK, there will be a fine if you do not wear your mask, because now I think last week started, if you go to the bus, if you don't have a mask, you cannot actually get to the bus. So you can see these are all issues, very complicated, interrelated. I have been told from many countries, for example, like Abu Dhabi, they said now Abu Dhabi has been declared like a zero state of coronavirus. You can't get into the country still. There are still the country borders are closed. You can leave the country, you still have, but you cannot get in, even within the other different Emirates. So you can see we are still facing different challenges locally or internationally. Our conferences are therefore multidisciplinary, and that's what you're going to see in the next 3 days. You're going to see papers or presentations on different topics, not just necessarily medicine, but you will see papers on construction management, you'll see paper on political science, you will see paper, we are very pleased, the Sudan National Strategy on Gum Arabic. Sudan is a leading country on Gum Arabic, is going to be presented here on Wednesday by all the leading professors in Sudan. You're going to see papers about accounting, you're going to see papers about very interesting topic, which we have been championing this and we have been leading on this, which is the critical and strategic role of the diaspora on helping their country of origins managing this pandemic. So you will see a wide range of papers on this on the next 3 days. The way we run our conferences, there will be different sessions. And as I said, I hope you all cope with us, because this is the first year we have to run this conference in this manner. Normally we have lots of better sessions. So we have people in the public health in this room, we have people in the law in this room, we have other room where people from engineering, but this year we can't run better session because all of you want to watch what is happening here. So that's number one. It's a real challenge for us. We have to bring papers together. The other real challenge we have faced is how to bring people together at this time as we speak. The first two papers we're going to listen to, one of them is from the United Kingdom and one is from New Zealand. The United Kingdom, it's 10 o'clock, it's a normal time, but the one from New Zealand, that's the very late of their day. So if we can't keep them any more longer waiting because it's almost very late in New Zealand. So you can see the other challenges. The time difference is making it a real challenge for us. That's why we will do our best. Every single session, once it's finished, we will try to edit it quickly, to upload it into the YouTube. So those who are currently sleeping, when they wake up, they can actually watch what happened in the conference. So that's number one. So I will encourage all the speakers or all the presenters and all the participants who are going to ask questions to try to keep in mind we will not have much time to edit the video. Therefore, I hope they can stick to the time. They can make themselves concise and right to the point, use their time more appropriately. And if you've been given a chance to ask a questions, I would really encourage you to make your question very short and right to the point, because really we will be very tight on our time scale. And the second thing about the conference, all those who will progress their presentations into a full article, we have been publishing this World Sustainable Development Outlook book series from 2003. And it has been very successful. It is our flagship publications. It's very popular because it brings lots of people in the same book, or it will bring all those people from different dimensions into one platform. So it has been very popular. And it is cited by the ISI, the Thomson Reuters one, for those academics who are very keen on citation. But also it is been very popular in a sense. Every time we've been asked, even this 2020, we have received lots of emails about when the Outlook is going to be published. So all those who have submitted their papers, which we have been reviewing, editing, they will be included in the Outlook 2020. But those who have not finished their papers, or they are very keen to submit and complete their papers, they are very welcome to do that, but they have to contact us as soon as possible, and we will guide you as to how quickly you can catch up with this 2020 volume of our Outlook, which is going to be focusing on the management of this pandemic and how we can get back on track to the 2030 agenda. The fourth items, or the third item, I would like also to quickly bring into your attention, because this year we are doing this conference remotely like this, we have started quite aggressively a roundtable discussion, call it Global Mind Debates. So we have already been through, we have already been engaged with the whole world problems, or the whole world regarding this COVID-19 problem or challenges for over 3 or 4 months now. We have run more than 26 regional or global mind debates, including experts from all over the world, from Bahrain, from India, from Saudi Arabia, from Libya, from Sudan, from UAE, from St. Lucia, from the UK, from the US. So we have been running this from the Netherlands and so forth, and so on and so forth, from Canada, and they have discussed lots of issues. We already have discussed lots of issues: ICT, knowledge economy, community engagement, Black Lives Matters. Also, we discussed that in a whole day. Education, learning. We have been discussing this for the last. All these roundtables, which have been completed, are already there on our YouTube. You can also watch them whenever you like. They are an integral part of this conference. And finally, while we're going through the conference, please, if you have any comment, if you are in the WhatsApp group, which we created particularly for this, please contact us, or you can contact me, because I will be following from my screen here, and I will be able, or my colleagues will be able to answer anything we can. Now, I'm quite keen to start the first presentation of the day, and as I said, it has been a very exciting experience. I'm looking forward to listen to all of you, engage with all of you, and also to see as many faces we can see. And if I can kindly ask you at the start of every session like this one, it will be good, unless you have any, if you don't want, but it would be very good at the start of every session if we all switch our cameras so we can actually see each other, because this is what WAS has been very good in doing. We know each other. We become like a friends. We become like a family. Beverly Anderson from the US, Mu'azzam from Australia, we have Godzama from Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So we become like a family. We know each other. So it will be good. The first is the start of every session, if you can actually switch your camera so people can actually see each other. And if you like, you can keep it as long as that is appropriate for you. All the presentations you're going to watch in the next 3 days, or you're going to see from today until we finish on Wednesday, they will be filmed, as you can see, and they will be up on our website on the YouTube. So you don't need to worry about this. You will have them. All the papers will be in the book, which will come out, I don't know when, once it's ready. And just one last thing, also wanted to mention here. After we finish the conference, we welcome your feedback, and also we will be very happy to continue our engagement, because we publish lots of journals, international refugee journals. Two of them with Emerald, in entrepreneurship, in management, in science and technology, in knowledge, and future foresight, and so on. So let's carry on this conversation. I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day. Hi, I can see Olivia there, and I can see Professor Manuel there. So yes, I can see Dima, if she put on, I can start seeing the faces. So quite familiar faces, and some Abdullah, I can see there. So I think it will be very good. So I am quite keen on the time. I have taken more than my time, but I always take the risk of the first speaker. So I will take all the trouble of the stress of the internet and all that. But I can see Professor Manuel Frutos Perez. Professor Manuel, I think by the way, all the CVs and the bios of all those speakers are available online. So if you want to know any more about any of the speakers, you don't need to worry now. And we're not going to spend too much time introducing them. They are available in our website. But Professor Manuel, if I can just introduce him in couple, he's a leading international scholar, academically and professionally. So theory to practice, I think he's one of the people, if you allow me, Professor Manuel, to say that, he's one of the professors I can confidently put hands on hand saying he is a professor who can really take you from, he can show you how the applications of the theory on the textbook. He's a distinguished professor. He's going to talk to us about a very important topic, which is learning, digital learnings, online learnings. But I think Professor Manuel is going to take us beyond that, just learning in the classroom. But as you may have seen, governments, even our Prime Minister, before even he got the coronavirus, he was running his own meetings from his Downing Street. All the ministers are across the country. You have seen our parliament, and that's what I think we need to learn about. It's not just about us in the classroom teaching our students. So Manuel, because I have taken lots of the time where I could have introduced you, the floor is yours, and thank you very much for taking the time. And also, I know you are the first starter of the day. So the floor is yours, and I will hand over. I think the people who are doing the technical, they will now switch me off, and it's all yours, Professor Manuel.
That's great. Thank you so much, Professor Alam. It's great to be here. Really, really good to be here. Right now, from a very sunny morning in Bristol, in the UK. Greetings to everyone, wherever you're based and whatever time of the day is for yourselves. I think it's been more important than ever to share our knowledge, our insights, our experiences across the world. Because one of the things that this pandemic has brought about is the need for all of us to work together for a better world. And I think the WAST Forum is a particularly important place for that, because your ambitions and your ethos is all about sustainable development across the world is really, really important today. And the pandemic has shown us that is crucial for the development of human beings. So my presentation today is about online education. Thank you, Professor Alam, for the excellent introduction to the conference, and also for your generous introduction to myself. Let me share my screen so you can start seeing my slides. One moment. So hopefully you can now see my slides. Unless I hear from the conveners, I will assume that you can see my slides. So yes, I'm Manuel Frutos Perez. I am the Director of Business Development at Cambridge Education Group, and I'll tell you a bit about what we do there. I'm also a visiting professor in digital learning at the University of the West of England here in the UK, but I have worked for quite a number of universities over my professional life, both in the UK and in Europe. And most of that career has been in distance, distributed, and lately online education. So very, very quickly, first about what we do at Cambridge Education Group, because it's relevant to the presentation today. We work with universities to help them develop online programs of study. Most of those programs are in postgraduate education. We now have got 6 partners in the UK, Together with them, we have got about 40 different programs. Most of those are full master's courses that are delivered fully online across the world. We recruit students from across the world onto those programs. They're fully online, so anybody can join. Our students come from over 75 different countries, and we're very proud of that. We're very proud of the diversity that is present in our cohorts. And very importantly, our retention rates go above 90%. That has always been something really key to our model. We don't believe in mass low quality education, which has been a problem for a lot of online initiatives over the past 10 years. We believe that online education should be of the highest quality possible, and it should be a quality that is comparable to what a student would get on campus. As you can see there, we have over 2,000 students now, postgraduate students across our partnerships. And so that number has almost doubled over the last 12 months only. So rapid expansion of our reach, which is great, but we are maintaining those retention rates as we are doing this. So that's a quick overview of what we do. It's relevant for the presentation today. The first thing I wanted to discuss with you are some key issues that we have seen in education over the last few years, but they have become more relevant through this public health crisis that is gripping the world at the moment. And the first one is about resilience. Our education systems have shown, unfortunately, that they were not resilient enough during this crisis. The education of millions of students at all levels has been disrupted by this crisis. So what it has shown is that we were not ready for something like this. We were not ready for a situation where physical locations had to be locked down. But here's the thought, of all those 2,000 students that I mentioned we have across our partnerships, not a single one of them had their education disrupted through this period. Their family life was disrupted, their work life was disrupted, their education wasn't. Online education of good quality has shown to be extremely resilient in this case. So that's just one thought to leave there for a bit later in the presentation. Another one is sustainability. You know, international education is great. It brings people from different parts of the world together to study together. It brings all those perspectives into the learning process. In my experience as an academic, it is always better to have a wide variety of students in a classroom. It produces a much better learning environment. So international education is really positive, but it is often not very sustainable. It involves a lot of traveling, it involves plane travel, accommodation, and so on. It's not a sustainable model of education. On the other hand, online education is. You don't have to get people traveling around. You don't have to build new buildings. You don't have to accommodate for those people. They all stay in place, but they still working together. So it is inherently sustainable. Another important issue that I think is becoming more important than ever at the moment is knowledge diplomacy. We, for too long at universities, are used to pushing our theories onto the rest of the world and trying to encourage people to think in the same way that we think. A lot of academics know that that is not the right way of educating our population. We need to make sure that all the different points of view get into the education system, that the curriculum is one that is rich in different voices that come from different parts of the world. Again, it's difficult to do that if you are running your education in your cohorts from one single physical geographical location. It is a lot easier to do if your cohort is varied, but they're all dispersed. They're all in different locations because they bring the different perspectives into the learning process. So knowledge diplomacy, something important to consider as well. Next one, inclusivity. You know, one of the great things about online education and before online education, when I was working in distance learning back 20 years ago, one of the very great things I've always experienced as an academic in the field is the widening participation that happens when you run education at a distance and you run it in a high quality way, making sure the students get the support they need. You immediately widen the net and give access to the education to lots of people who before probably wouldn't have access to it for a number of reasons. It could be a physical disability, it could be a special educational need, it could be family reasons, work reasons. When you run education in a flexible way, you actually making possible for lots of other people to join the education system. And that's something really positive. That's something that every society would benefit from. And last one, but not least, is talent retention. You know, one of the things, as someone who has worked in international education for a very long time, one of the things that has become very obvious to me is that when we run international cohorts in a single physical geographical location, one of the issues with that is that you are bringing all those talented students from other countries. You're taking them away from those societies where they were before. You're taking away probably the best students. And in a sustainable development mindset, you really don't want to do that. You want them to stay where they are. These are very talented people who you are developing. You want them to stay there and make a difference where they come from. So talent retention becomes really important, because if you can run high quality education in a way that you keep people where they come from, actually the impact, the positive impact to their societies will be a lot higher than if you made them travel across the world and you educate them over there. Their original societies will lose that talent for either temporarily, partially, or forever. So it's very important element to consider as well. So that's my food for thought, some ideas, some insights, some things that I have experienced working in this field. Let's move on to what do I mean by high quality online education? Well, there are a number of things that that determine the quality of any education that you provide to your students. And this applies to online learning, just it applies to everything else that we should do as educators. A good education should be active. Learning is an active process. It's not something that you sit back and you receive information. It should be active. You are developing as a person when you're learning, so that you should be part of an active process doing this. A good education should be social. It should be a social event. We are social animals, human beings. We learn best when we are working in groups. So any type of good quality education should do that, whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face. So that is sometimes harder to implement when you are running online education. And that's why it should be at the forefront of our thoughts when we are developing online programs. We need to develop a learning experience that is very social and is very active. Diversity, any good type of education should be diverse. So the variety of activities that you give your students to do should be as diverse as possible. Everybody learns in different ways, and you should be able to provide a wide variety of activities so that all of your students can engage with the learning process. It should be relevant. We shouldn't be designing courses that we design them today and we expect them to stay like this for years. That's not serving the purposes that we need on quality education for our students. Because education should be relevant, the world is changing continuously. This health crisis that we're living through has demonstrated that things that we assumed about global public health last year are no longer valid or are no longer accurate, and we have to change the way we teach our students. So all education should be relevant. In online education, what that means is that we should be revising our curriculum continuously, making sure that the content of the curriculum is relevant to our students. making sure that there is a good connection between the curriculum and the employment market, because we know that one of the key drivers of education, particularly at postgraduate level, is employability and career development. So we need to make sure that the curriculum is actually matching the jobs market and what firms need people to be able to do today, and what firms need and going to need to be able people to be able to do in the near future. Good education should also be challenging. It shouldn't be easy, particularly at postgraduate level. You want to challenge and stretch these students. They're normally very talented students, as I mentioned, so you really want to stretch them as much as you can, challenge them, making sure that they're continuously being stretched and they become the best professionals that they can be. And last but really not least, fully supported. You really want to support the students properly. A good education is one where you support your students as much as you can, and you make sure that they are not going to fail. You make sure that they can succeed. And this is one of the things that very often gets missed out in online and distributed education. There is this assumption that you can have many more students on online programs, which is true. You can have much larger cohorts, but that doesn't mean they're going to need less support. They're going to need just as much support as students on your campus, or even more. So you should provide all the support they're going to need. It's not only academic support, they're going to need pastoral support, financial support, mental health support, all of those services that are normally available to them on campus. You need to make sure that they have access to them through the online education you're providing to them as well. So that's something that needs to be actively considered by institutions. How do we support our students properly? So those are the elements I think that any good quality education should have, that they become even more crucial for online education, because some of those elements, they're very easy to miss out on when you are designing a program. You need to make sure that you are paying attention to all of those things when you're designing online education. So how do I think these links, good quality education and sustainable development? Professor Alam already referred to this at the beginning, you know, that link between the global and the local, really, really important. First thing that I think we should all commit to is no compromise on quality. Online education should be just as good as campus-based education. We should make sure that when we design online programs of study, they are just as good as the ones that we have on campus, and the support we provide to the students should be just as good. Resilient and pervasive. This is something that online education can really measure on, because as I said at the beginning, what this crisis has proven to us is that online education, if it's well designed, is extremely resilient. It can survive without major disruption, even a global pandemic that we are going through at the moment. Pervasiveness, you can reach every corner of the world. If you provide good quality education, you can recruit students from everywhere. You can make sure that everyone who can and who wants to can have access to this education you are providing. And also really important, you know, in recent months, we've seen with the Black Lives Matter movement, there is a lot of debate across the world, not just here in the UK and other Western countries. Across the world, we've seen a lot of debate about how do we make sure that we engage with our past? How do we make sure that we're not still putting forward very old ideas about equality and making sure that everybody has got a voice? Again, online education has got a lot of power to deal with this issue, because as I mentioned at the beginning, when you have an international cohort and they're all still based where they come from, you create a really rich learning environment where everybody talks, where everybody debates the issues with the same voice, and everybody can bring their own context and their own examples of how theories have been put into practice. This creates a very rich environment that is very easily to be decolonized in terms of a curriculum perspective. Again, online education can really help us in this area. And before I finish, I want to leave you with a quote from one of our current students, and this is Zach Bar. He's based in China. He's studying an MA, a master's course in creative writing with the University of Hull, who we are working with at the moment. And he left that comment as feedback on his experience. And I think it really encapsulates the issues I wanted to present to you today. He's saying there, what I love about this course is that we're all working together as a family. We're supporting each other. We're giving constructive and honest feedback from which we all benefit. That is a fantastic piece of feedback. When you think about this is coming from an online student. He is studying online full-time, which means he has got no physical contact with any other students or with the teaching team. But that comment, when you read it, it really tells you there is a real relationship that has been built between this student and the rest of the cohort, between this student and the institution and the teaching team. This is what I mean by high quality online education. This is an education that is delivering the same level of quality as you would find on campus. And this is what I think we should be aiming for. Thank you very much for your attention. I think I am just a little bit over the time. Very happy to answer any questions you might have. You can contact me after the conference as well if you have any questions. Always happy to talk to colleagues across the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Manuel, as usual. Very exciting, very inspiring, and thank you very much. I think what you have just explored is very, very important, Manuel, and I think we really need, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of discussion about this, because we really need to move very quickly. We have been approached by many, many organizations, and I can tell you what you have just said. And in one of my talks, I actually borrow your wording about the quality, and I keep saying to people, quality and excitement, because you can see I'm in my room here, how to excite me. And also the quality is very important. I think I'm going to introduce Dr. Siham, because she has been waiting for us quite late in New Zealand. And then we will come back and ask questions for both Professor Manuel and Dr. Siham. So Professor Manuel, thank you very much. Stay with us and I will come back to you in maybe 20 minutes. Or we will open it for questions. I know there's many questions, but let's bring Siham. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to introduce our next speaker, which is Dr. Siham Al-Kafafi. She's joining us from Auckland in New Zealand, quite a far away, Siham. I don't know how did you manage to travel all this way. Now, Siham, I'm really grateful, first of all. It's not the first time you have contributed to these conferences. You have a massive contribution over the years on innovation, teaching, quality, and you're going to talk to us about a very important topic. And I think this is quite an exciting to listen to you. And actually, this is a proof. Even when Siham, I remember she came to us in Geneva in the conference, she said she has been traveling or in the US. We had a conference in Atlantic City. Dr. Al-Kafafi said she has been traveling for nearly, I can't remember, 2 days. So you can see the beauty and the benefit of now bringing people from such far away. Now we're going to watch how, we're going to see how. Of course, we are missing few things, like Professor Manuel just said, we still have to improve the quality. But at least now we have a very important asset here. We can see how we can watch her, she's far away. Dr. Siham, she's a very experienced academic. She also the same like Manuel. She also one of the academics who normally bring the classroom teaching into the real life scenario. She's very experienced. She has written lots of papers. She has done lots of consultancy in New Zealand and other countries. And she's one of the leading academics in that part of the world. Siham, the floor is yours. And after we finish, we bring you both together and we will open the questions, question and answer. So if you are ready, Siham, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alam. It is my pleasure to be with you today, and thanks for the esteemed colleagues also who are attending today. I'm trying while talking in order to share the screen, right? So you can see my screen right now. Can everybody see it? Yes?
Yes,
Yes, Siham, we can see you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, today my topic is going to be talking, as everybody is talking about COVID-19 and the pandemic and its impact on the future of work. And I am going to take New Zealand as an example on how COVID-19 affected the future of work, like everybody all over the world, and also how the application of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, yeah, I think this is better now. Yes. So what will happen is that I will start by introducing the concept of future of work, and then I am going to relate what is happening, what is the situation right now in New Zealand, and then I am going to look in more details on the United Nations Sustainable Development, specifically goal number 8, which has got 5 elements there, and how each and every single element is being applied here in New Zealand in a way of having a future of sustainability for work. Then wrap it up with a summary and a few suggestions. So as we all know, with COVID-19, or even actually, these changes has been happening before COVID-19 started, due to lots of technological development, the globalization, the aging population, which have a lot of here in New Zealand, the changing of the business models. All these things actually affected the future of work, affected the requirements of labor globally. Then COVID-19 arrives, and we have now over 30 million people who are jobless. So as we can see, it had also another disruption. Okay, so what is happening is that everybody starting saying, how are we going to deal with that? What is our future? Where are we going to work? What is the new place of work is going to look like? What is our finances? How are we going to deal with this unsustainable, volatile labor market? So if we're going to look at the future of work concept, it is actually says that it deals with constant changes and disruption. And this is happening due to all the new technologies like artificial intelligence and new platforms like the one we are talking right now on. And the beauty of it, of course, that I am here in New Zealand and we're having lots of people from all around the world. I'm going to show you now a figure actually from the OECD, which is was published in 2019, that is actually mentioning that there is a lot of risks of job automation, about 70%. And there's another risk between 50 and 70% that there are lots of changes that is going to happen eventually in the labor market, as you can see in that figure, and it shows you on all the different OECD countries. Now, there is another research that has been conducted by the World Economic Forum about the future of work, and it mentions that there's 89% of the companies in the US that they are planning to adopt big data by 2022. And 70% of the US companies are arranging to integrate the Internet of Things, explore the web, and also app-enabled markets, take advantages of machine learning and cloud computing, which is things that we are already doing now, but it is going to be more and more in the future. So that brings us to the issue that if we are going to look at the skills of the workforce right now and the skills of the workforce in the future, because we need to work towards that. We don't want to be challenged all of a sudden, like what happened with COVID-19, and people all of a sudden had to go home and be confronted with lots of technological challenges. So if we are going to look at those skills requirement for the workforce, there's a shift. So there's a decline in certain skills, and there's actually a growth in certain skills. So if we're going to look at some of those skills in the list, is that there's a requirement for more analytical thinking, innovation, because of all these disruptions. We need creativity, we need innovation, we need learning strategies, like what my previous speaker was talking about, Professor Emmanuel, and also we need to have also a new critical thinking and analysis. If we look down this list, we're going to find out that there's a tendency of requirement of soft skills. So for example, right now, there's need for the manual dexterity, there is a need for maybe verbal and memory and all these things, but we don't need it in the future. We actually started from now relying less. We have little apps that reminds us. We have our diary on our phone. We have lots of computer programs that makes the finances, that calculates things for us, and we don't need it anymore. So we are assisted by technology. Now, I'm going to be moving now and talking about the situation of COVID-19 and how this has had a great implication of work. So what happened here in New Zealand is that we started on the lockdown. We are right now, we had 4 levels, and right now we are semi-normal. We're level 1, so we're out. We're outside, but still we're affected. So even though in New Zealand, we are considered one of the luckiest countries in the whole world that we combated COVID-19, but we need to recover from COVID-19. And we cannot do that while the whole world is still affected by it. If we're going to look at that figure, it actually shows the spread of COVID-19 in New Zealand by District Health Board. Until yesterday, the 19th of July, 2020, we had exactly 1,553 cases in total of COVID-19. We had only 18 deaths. And of course, because we went to level 1, we opened our borders again in order to welcome the New Zealanders who were stranded overseas. So after we declared on going to level 1 that we are free of COVID-19, we started having COVID-19 again. So as you can see in this figure, it shows you the green means all people recovered. The yellow are the active ones. Those are 75 people, and they are in self-isolation in hotels that the government has allocated for all those comers into the country. The 14 days self-isolation before they start going back to the community, and they get tested on the 3rd day and on the 14th day. The deceased, as I mentioned, is the red, and it's only 18. So now let us look at how the government here dealt with COVID-19 and how have they matched or applied the United Nations Sustainable Development, specifically goal number 8, which is promoting sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth and productive employment and decent work for all. Now, as you can see in the list in the slide, there are 5 streams of work. So I am going to take each stream and look at it, how the government adopted it through their support and actions in the community and with businesses and individuals. If we're going to look at the first one, which is actually the most important one, is to do with the health services. There are successes, and of course, there are also challenges. The first thing is what I mentioned. They created the alert system, level 4, which was lockdown, and then we went down levels. Now we are in level 1. And this system helped in stopping community transmission. Then also they started closing all the international and national travels to combat COVID-19. They developed a helpline for the community, the health services like GPs, the mental health, the pharmacies were actually working during lockdown. They also developed certain protocols when you go to hospital entrances. He followed the sanitation regimes for the World Health Organization, and they also published procedures for the assessment and the testing of COVID-19. Now, down all this management, of course, there are still some challenges. So, one of those challenges is that there were some naughty individuals who did not actually follow the lockdown. And they jeopardized their own safety and other safety. We have an open community here. They were actually scandalized on TV, and everybody talked about it in order to go back online. But the majority of us here in New Zealand, we kept to the lockdown rules. Also, one of the big challenges was the shortage of the PPEs, personal protective equipment. And I believe that we share most of the world the same challenges. Those two challenges, everybody is in the same thing. If we are going to look at the stream work number 2, which is social protection and services, the government started also assisting people so that they wouldn't lose their homes and so that they would stay in their homes during the lockdown. They started extending the time frame for the tenants. If somebody is breaching the lease, from 10 working days to 30 working days. Also for the mortgages, extended defaulting from 20 working days to 40 working days. They had also a residential rent freeze for 6 months. And also the landlords could not actually get rid of their tenants during this 6 months, except of course if a tenant wanted to leave. Also, they had lots of the services working at that time, as I mentioned earlier, to serve the communities, and especially the supermarkets. So thank God we did not have the fight over the tissue rolls that was happening overseas. The other thing is that in there also, they also had regular communication with us. So every single day, we tune at a specific time on the TV and they update us about how many cases, what is happening, what's going on, what are the protocols, what are the definitions, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. Regular communication, which is a key issue here. Now, the third work stream is protecting jobs and supporting businesses. And I believe the government work a lot to help lots of people, specifically in this stream. So they supported small and medium businesses. So they allotted different grants, different loans, different tax releases, and all this was to keep the cash flow and to keep businesses running. And more specifically to the employers and the employees, they provided a scheme called wage subsidy. So this is, they had now this is the second one. So the organization would apply for that scheme. And then what happened is that in order to keep their employees, so the full-time employees were granted 585 point fractions if they are full-timers, $385 per week, by the way, if they were part-timers. Of course, the essential workers who would leave scheme, if they were under the health and safety, they had to have leave. They also got paid exactly like the same wage subsidy scheme. And also, they had also a program for redeployment. So they allocated 100 million. So for example, in Gisborne, this is one of our cities here in the North Island, they gave 28 million for the redeployment of forestry workers into other activities, into roading, construction, in order to retain them and still have jobs. If we're looking at the stream 4, which is financial stimulus to make macroeconomic policies specifically to the health sector, they gave a package of 500 million, and this is to help public communications and testing and the tracing, and also to support the GPs because of there was a lot of pressure on them. People, of course, were panicking. Lots of people were not using the hotline and going to the GPs, and of course also community pharmacies. The general businesses, they made a deal with the banks. The banks gave 6 months mortgage holidays, and individuals, of course, for people, homeowners. And some of them, they would pay only interest, or some of them, they had a 6 months holiday. There is tax relief measures, and they also had temporary changes in the Company Act in order to help and assist people. For example, people were at home, so now they started accepting, for example, e-signatures. The other thing is also in the export and the import, the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, they made a deal in order to, with the government and Air New Zealand, in order to keep supporting the air freight during that time, and also a 4 million for the export business continuity services was launched. There's also a launch of the New Zealand marketplace, so businesses can communicate with each other. And also there has been total exemption from tariffs for any COVID-19 products like medical or hygiene products. The final stream is the 5th stream, and this one is to do with promoting social cohesion. There was 16 million for NGOs to support families and whānau. Whānau is the Maori word for families, and the concept is actually not only your immediate family, it's a bigger concept, the whole community, to help them in these COVID-19 circumstances. Another 6 million for the disability community, also participation during the lockdown, of 4.8 million in order to provide innovative solutions for the communities, and 67 million that was spent in the last 2 months in order to help the people who are from overseas and stranded here in New Zealand during COVID-19. So the summary of all this discussions and findings, how the New Zealand government has intervened with those efforts with the businesses and employees, trying to have sustainability and continuity in the workforce, still there were some challenges that they faced. So unfortunately, some of those businesses who got this wage schemes did not give it to the employees. So accordingly, those people are under, or these organizations are under investigation right now. Also, the unemployment in New Zealand is rising, like everybody else in the whole globe. So if I look at the exact figures, when I checked it, it was saying that in this quarter, which was in March 2020, it rose from 4 to 4.2. And I am sure that right now it also increased because there's few months span of time. Also, there are lots of employees who were not technically savvy. They were also facing a lot of technological challenges because they were forced to work from home while this transformation is happening. So there's actually a need of reskilling and upskilling. There's lots of also organizations that announced solvency and lost their employees lost their jobs, and this happened in all countries, all industries across the board, whether it's aviation, which happened aggressively, agriculture and food, construction, tourism, of course, and hospitality, and the retail sector that was hit also badly. Even we had the publishing of magazines, the New Zealand magazines, they closed. But I just heard yesterday that they have been bought by an Australian organization, and hopefully it will start running again. Now, if we're going to sum up the dimensions of the future of workforce and the new normal, we can actually divide it into 3 areas, which is to do culture, the culture of the organizations, and how we are going to deal with the digital skills and upskill and reskill our employees. Also the space, the working environment, is it going to be remotely at home, or is it going to be in offices? And also the workforce, and these are the main 3. So suggestions and opportunities for the future after all of that is that the organizations need to be strengthening their working from home policies. They need to introduce a hybrid approach for the workplace and culture. There has been a lot of improvement in this field, but there is still more opportunities to be looked at. Also, there is a need for entrepreneurial spirit. We require more creativity, more innovation in businesses. Organizations also should become less competitive and more collaborative with each other. Streamlining organization processes to deal with speedy responses is very crucial so that we can combat any crisis in future. Also promote the work culture changes to fit the new normal of the future of work and to accommodate the diversity of the people working in it. Also allocate funds for reskilling and upskilling, because this is important, because to deal with the gap, there is a gap and a mismatch between the supply and the demand that is required for the future workforce. Finally, I would like to leave you with this quote: "You can't wait until a house burns down to buy fire insurance." So we cannot wait until there are massive dislocations in our society to prepare for the 4th industrial revolution. So let us all work together, consolidate in order to recover from COVID-19. Thank you.
Okay, Siham, thank you very much. This is a wonderful presentation. And as usual, Siham, you brought lots of life to this discussion. Emmanuel, if I bring you on board as well, if I unmute you. Now, Siham, it's really a great pleasure. And again, thank you very much for staying awake for us. We appreciate that. Now, okay. I would like to open it for the questions. We are a little bit over time, but we are allowing for that. Definitely, we will be okay. We are now, for all the people who are watching us now, if you can just maybe raise the hand sign, unless being told by anything. So you have watched, hopefully both of you have, so all of you have watched both Professor Manuel and Dr. Siham, 2 wonderful kickoff of this conference. I think the very important 2 messages, technology like what we are using now is extremely useful. And the fact we have Siham, we have even Professor Manuel from Bristol, he's talking to all of you. I can see people from Saudi Arabia, America, whatever it is. Now, secondly, the second message, we need to adapt quickly, as Siham said, because we need to start doing the work. And that's what every government is saying. Now, I would like to open it for questions. So who is like to, if you can kindly make your question really sharp, short and direct to the question, and say whom is it for, if you like, or for both of them. Now, it's the questions time now. Could you show the hand if you want to ask any question?
Dr. Alam, is it going to be on the chat?
No, I will give them the floor to talk, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good.
Or Dr. Iman, what do you suggest? Is that correct?
Yes, this is the best way.
Yeah, so if anyone will, yeah, who want to start?
After raise hand, we can give the mic.
Yes, if you would like to ask a question, just raise the hand one. Please be with us because the first time we have to. Any question? Any question? Because I don't want to ask my question first. I want you to. I mean, there's a couple of questions I have seen from there. Because by the way, this is live on the YouTube and on Facebook now. Okay, I will keep watching. I try to watch at the moment. Now, Siham, there's a question being asked. Yes, these preparations, these adaptations at work, we have to do them. And Manuel already talked about learning technologies and the quality.
Yes.
Now, number one, the question is many countries in the world, many, not few, many, like in Africa, it's going to be very difficult for them to adapt or to change anything. Because just give you example of Africa, for example, during the pandemic, even the WHO acknowledged that one of the problems in the entire continent, they cannot even stay at home, not because they do not want to obey the social distancing, but that's how they do, how they get their food, how they get to work. There's no delivery services like we have in the UK, probably in New Zealand and others. So what do you, because we're always keen on global problems here, what can you offer to those from developing countries? And I will come to Manuel as well, but because you started this quite heavily on the work, what can they do? There's many parts, like us in the UK, we can adjust easy, France, Germany, all OCDs. Now, can you talk to me about those in least developing countries or in the World Bank? Class one?
Yeah, the thing is that the important thing is the collaboration happens everywhere. It should happen everywhere. And actually, there is a stronger word which is called solidarity, that we have to stand together. And there has to be a shift, a paradigm shift in attitude, the attitude of people, the way the people are thinking. Here in New Zealand, if we started by inside there are lots of kids who are homeless. There are lots of families who are living in their cars, and it was very difficult. So there were lots of initiatives like food banks and trying to support people and trying to help people. For example, there were lots of farms, and in these farms, even the farmers, because they did not have workers, there's even shortage of workers. The crops were rotting. There is nobody to pick it up. So we have here a community online. It's called Neighborly. And in this Neighborly group, people can participate in it, and anybody can send a request for the community to help. So as we are doing inside each community, we should actually have this model and actually apply it all over the world. I'm not sure if what I heard, like we go and give to all those World Vision and those the kids and things like that. I heard something that most of the money that we give goes to admin and to workers more than the poor people who need it. So we need to have more conscientious people or better systems and better business models, instead of this money going on admin and things like that, to go to actually the people who need to eat, to help.
Okay, excellent. Professor Manuel, I will let you comment if you want, but I have a question of two parts, very important to you, because many people from the first time you have given that talk in your global development. By the way, thank you very much again for taking part in the global debate as well. And by the way, there's another lengthy debate where Professor Manuel with two other professors was talking on one of our global debate for the conference. Professors, I took a question really critical now. Most vice chancellors now in the UK, I can talk about the UK, most of them now are really struggling because they can see clearly in 2 months' time, we have a reduction between 20 to 30% on our home students dropping, number one. And some of them are seeing 50 to 70% drop in the international number of students coming to us. And that's quite a serious one. Most universities are now talking about something between 3.5, 4 million, up to 7 million drop in income. Most universities I have seen that.
Yeah.
They are getting rid of people. They have to compromise in this department. We need to get 2 or 3 of them. Now, but more important, relating to your talk, which is quite important, now many universities have now pushed and they are trying to train us, academic, as quick as possible to deliver with the quality you're talking to. Although they're not really talking about the high quality, or of course they are, but they want to make sure we can really deliver reasonably good on the web. So to what extent do you see yourself as an academic, and also you are a professor at the university as well, to what extent you think we have been very late in coaching and training academic staff to deliver? To what extent you think we have been too late in preparing our staff to deliver? Let alone the quality you are talking about it. And also the quality you are talking about it. Is it expensive, Manuel? It is something now we can easily, because I know this question will come to me tomorrow through the chat. Is it something you can easily coach people, deliver it to universities, not just necessarily in the UK, because how quickly we can deliver with the quality you're referring to, and how expensive, not just this maybe personal question to you and the team you're leading, but generally, are we talking about a very expensive technology and application and concepts, taking into account we are now sacking people because we don't have income?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are excellent questions, Alam. And the number of issues there. The first question, are most universities late into this game? The answer is yes. You know, the crisis has shown it. Universities have done their best. To be fair to them, particularly to be fair to university staff, when the crisis happened, they did their best to try to make sure that the rest of the academic year could be saved for the students. And it was a really good effort, but it also showed that they were not ready. Universities were not resilient enough. The education of students was disrupted right across the board. There is no question about it. The only students, as I mentioned in my presentation, that did not see their education disrupted were the online students, where the programs that were already set up for these, they have been set up way before the crisis happened. All the support mechanisms were in place and they just carried on. But it's not just about the fact that those programs were being delivered already, it's the fact that there is an inherent flexibility in online learning when you do it well. So because those students, the students that we have, they saw their family life disrupted and they saw their work pattern disrupted too. And because the education we're providing to them is flexible, they could carry on with it. So it's not only that the education was being delivered still, but also that it's inherently flexible. Our students can decide every week how they organize their time. They can move and shift the pattern of work online during any given week. So that really gave them the resilience that they needed at this time of crisis. So yes, universities are late and nothing is going to get solved for this September. You know, everybody's thinking, oh, you know, new academic year comes September, everything is going to be fine. No, it does not. It's not going to be fine. There is not enough work that has been done for this coming academic year to resist a new wave of the pandemic. So my message to colleagues across universities and in my discussions with many executive teams of different universities is you don't have any time to lose. You're not ready for this September. Start working towards next September. You know, September 21. If you start working now, by September 21, you will be in a very good, resilient place. But you need to start working now. This cannot be done overnight. Yes, poor quality online education can be done very quickly. But is that what you want? You want to replace what was working really well on campus? Do you want to replace that with something very low quality online that is going to undermine the impression that people have about online education? Because let's face it, anybody who hasn't done any online learning before, they are going to be presented with this. So if we don't offer them quality to begin with, everybody's going to think, well, actually online learning doesn't work. You know, this is not working for me. And it's not that online learning doesn't work, it's that poor quality education doesn't work. We all know that. It doesn't work on campus, it doesn't work online. So if we really want to put our institutions in a way that is resilient for any future crisis, we need to start working now, and we'll start working seriously. And to the question about financing, that's really important, Alan. When I discuss our engagement with vice chancellors, that always comes up, you know, how much is this going to cost me? And it's very simple. This is not going to cost you more than what you do on campus. It's not going to cost you less either. It all goes back to quality. If you are spending X amount of money developing and setting up and delivering a good quality program on campus, you cannot expect that you can move that online and it's going to be cheaper. There is no reason why it should be cheaper, because you still need all the support that you have on campus online to make it work well. The advantage, though, is that when you move provision online, you can grow really fast. And that's the advantage it gives you. It gives you more return for your investment, but the investment needs to be there. But it will allow you to grow student numbers really fast. It will grow the reputation of your institution if you're delivering quality. So it will also attract more students onto campus if you're delivering good quality online, because it grows the name of your institution. So lots of benefits, but investment is required. And in that question of investment, universities are saying, okay, yeah, we understand the concept of you need to invest to get quality, but right now we can do it. Well, this is a time when the private sector really should collaborate with the public sector. This is the time when we all need to come together and work together. And that's what we do at Cambridge Education Group. We provide funding to universities, and then we recoup that funding once we get the revenues in from student fees. It's a good model that can work. This is a time, like I said, for collaboration between the private sector and the public sector to make sure that we all together come out of this crisis better.
Professor, sorry to interrupt you. So just this is quite important. I know it will excite many people. So the model you have at Cambridge Group, you provide the funding and the technology and the application for the university upfront with an agreement once they recruited the students, because that's where the university involved. You're not involving the recruitment, then that cost will be paid back.
Yeah, so there are quite a number of models that we use. Every partnership is different. Every institution has got different requirements. But the concept is that what the private sector can do in a situation like this is we can bring additional funding into the picture, and then we can decide, you know, how that funding gets repaid. So yes, at a high level, you can say yes. What the private sector can do is bring investment up front, and then through the contract, you can decide how that investment gets repaid. That's what the private sector can provide. But obviously, I cannot say that's how we do in every partnership, because every partnership is different. But the concept that that's how the private sector can help is one that I think needs to be explored further, because that's how universities can access additional funding at the time of crisis when they don't have it. Okay, excellent. And Manuel, I'm going to go to Siham and then we finish, because I have promised people to give them at least 5 minutes break to have a coffee or anything. But so I will not come back to you. Just concluding word from you before I go to Siham. What are you, from your perspective, experience, you expecting will happen? Now, our Prime Minister here in the UK said by December, he's expecting us to have a nice Christmas and life will be back as normal. That's what he said a few days ago. What is your expectation in terms of your field, technology, digital learning? What do you expect the world will look like in the next, let's talk about the 5 months. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's an excellent question. And yes, you know, our politicians, sometimes they tend to be very optimistic about things. And I've got nothing against optimism. I come from Spain originally, and we're a very optimistic culture. But as a scientist, as a data scientist, I don't see that rosy picture coming through. What we know from learning from past pandemics that the world has suffered is that they don't go away that quickly. There is always more than one wave. So we should assume that this is no different, that we are going to see a second wave. So that's the timing. But also, I think something more important than that is that people are misunderstanding the flow of education here. If you think about program of study, If it's an undergraduate program of study, you at least you have your students with you for 3 years. If this September, as you mentioned before, there's going to be a drop in home students, there's going to be a massive drop in international students, those courses will not recover for another 3 or 4 years. That's what people are not talking about, is that the crisis is not just this September, because those are going to be, if you end up with very small cohorts, you're going to have to drag those small cohorts for 3 or 4 years. So the funding crisis will accumulate. Universities, if they don't take action now and they start preparing for a more resilient version of themselves in the future, this could be a financial crisis that's going to be with them for over a decade, because a poor recruitment in one September can create financial problems for many years after that, even if the crisis gets solved after that.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Emmanuel. Siham, again, the final word is yours. How will the future look like? You are in New Zealand, but maybe in your case, I will add, maybe add a flavor to the question. New Zealand is the first country to declare that New Zealand, or not, is being cited all over the world. Your government has managed very well combating this pandemic. So all over the world, the people are talking about New Zealand, and you were one of the. I think you are the first country to restart the life of trains and so on. Now the question to you, I want just a single. I know, Siham, you can tell me many reasons. I want you the single most important lessons from New Zealand for those who are watching us, and when they watch by the way, we got many government, you know, we have 2 government advisor in our advisory board. Now, what is the key, one key strong message to the world who are watching us, what New Zealand has done, which can, they have to do it? And secondly, don't tell me because of the women. I know the women are, we always support women. No. The reason I'm saying that, there is lots of things going in the Facebook, women are better, and I agree, women, and we are here, we have a big session about women empowerment. But we know that many people, they admire your prime minister, no question. So don't say something else.
Don't worry.
And how do you see the future, Siham, in the next 5-6 months?
We are already out. We're out on the street. We are normal. We're living normally now. And now, but because we declared we're free of COVID, but now we opened our borders, so COVID is coming back. So the key thing here, you see, how did we combat it is by solidarity and collaboration and listening, and all of us working together. Teamwork.
Excellent.
That's it.
I can't say anything, Siham. Thank you. Very good work.
And also respect to leadership.
Excellent.
That's very important. Okay. How we are going to move is that right now we were trying to make deals with Australia, so we grow our bubble, because economically we're hit badly, like lots of countries all over the world. So we are trying to recover economically. There are lots of people who are really lost their jobs, and in education there are lots of private institutes, but they created a new term called teaching out. So they are teaching all the international students, and after they finish and give them the certificates, they're locking the doors. They are not surviving. So lots of institutions are closing. Hopefully in the future, new ones will open again. The only ones who had a stash of money aside, those are the only ones who may survive this. But the key thing is that when we're trying to open our bubble, it depends also on the other countries. We have been in negotiation with Australia, and now Australia are having more cases in Melbourne, so they went back to lockdown. Our government was so scared that we open and then we go back to lockdown. So they were very, very careful.
Thank you very much, Siham.
We need people outside to be well too, because we all depend on each other. We cannot survive in only one bubble. We need all the other people outside to survive too.
Excellent.
We need to help each other.
Thank you very much, Siham. And I really, you have uplifted all of us and those who are watching us worldwide. really solidarity is a good word. And I think that's what exactly this has assembled, because I remember someone from outside Bright who said to me, Alam, he's late 30 and his wife also late 30. And he said to me, our next door neighbors who are much older than us, they knocked our door saying, do you need any help? Because we haven't seen you out. We thought maybe you are. And he said that's really emotionally and psychologically, he said it's really bonded him with his neighbor next door. So thank you very much, Siham. Thank you very much, Manuel. I hope all the people who are watching at home, particularly after this very uplifting session, so if we can say thank you to them in a very usual way. I know we are very distant now. Thank you very much. I promise people to give them. I will give you now. We should have, our break has been eaten up. So I think with your permission, rather than we should have taken half an hour break, I would like to suggest we take just 10 minutes break, because we're still going to carry on. We have distinguished speakers also lined up. We had from Libya, we had a paper from Nigeria, and we have one from the UK. So with your permission, I'm going to ask kindly if we take just 5 to 10 minutes, if you can come back in 10 minutes, just to give you time to relax. And also to be fair to the speaker, we don't want to hold them longer because they might have any commitments. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in 10 minutes now.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.